Why did this absurd, obscene plea bargain occur?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at 10 criminals who got frustratingly lenient sentences despite their horrible crimes.
A free man with an ongoing appetite for human flesh.
Brock Turner.
You've got a guilty verdict, which is great, and then the sentence, 6 months? Come on.
People v. Turner is regarded as one of the great injustices of the 21st century, and for good reason. The story dates back to January 2015, when Stanford student Brock Turner was caught with the unconscious Chanel Miller. 2 grad students intervened and held Turner until police arrived, and he was convicted on 3 felony charges related to sexual assault. Despite facing a maximum sentence of 14 years, Judge Aaron Persky went exceptionally easy on Turner and sentenced him to just 6 months. To make matters even worse, Turner was out in 3 for good behavior.
He was originally sentenced to about 6 months here in California. That means 3 months because of good behavior policies. And he was looking at the potential for 14 years. The judge, when he made his decision to sentence him to 6 months, also came under a lot of fire internationally, really.
The sentence sparked widespread outrage, with many believing that Turner got off owing to his race and upper-class status. In retaliation, voters recalled or fired Judge Persky in 2018.
New tonight, we're just getting word that the controversial judge in the Brock Turner case has a new job. Aaron Persky is now a tennis coach at Lynbrook High School in San Jose.
Jeffrey Epstein.
In an unusual plea deal 10 years ago, Epstein only served 13 months in jail. The civil trial between the 2 men was likely to bring out details of the allegations against Epstein and may have implicated some famous names in Epstein's circle.
While Epstein is widely known for his 2019 arrest and subsequent death, he was also the source of a major controversy in the mid-2000s. Back in 2005, Epstein was the focus of a major police investigation after reports that he was repeatedly committing sexual abuse at his Palm Beach mansion. The FBI ultimately identified 36 victims that were targeted by Epstein.
All right, Bradley Edwards says he's now waiting on a federal judge to rule on his request to toss out that plea agreement that Epstein made over 10 years ago. If that happens, it could open up the door to a whole new prosecution case and even more courtroom drama.
However, he avoided federal charges by striking a plea deal that was approved by U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. Epstein was sentenced to just 18 months and was granted a work release program, allowing him to leave the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He was ultimately released after serving just 13 months.
In Washington, New York Senior Senator Chuck Schumer is still asking questions about the Florida plea deal approved by former U.S. Attorney in Miami, Alexander Acosta.
Robert Durst.
At the end of his life, Robert Durst was in failing health and serving a life without parole sentence for murder, having plenty of time to perhaps wonder how he got away with it all for so long.
Heir to a real estate empire, Robert Durst was likely responsible for murdering his wife, Kathleen McCormick, in 1982. Then, in 2000, he murdered his longtime friend Susan Berman, supposedly because she was about to speak to police about Kathleen's disappearance. The next year, he killed and dismembered a man named Morris Black, though he was later acquitted after claiming self-defense.
The fact that Morris Black had been murdered in Galveston was not something that would have garnered any attention at our end. It was only when they made the connection to Robert Durst.
Durst avoided prosecution for years and seemed to get away with all 3 crimes for a while. It wasn't until the Jinx in 2015 that his case received widespread attention and ignited further scrutiny. Durst was ultimately convicted of Berman's murder in 2021 and sentenced to life, but by then he was already 78 years old. He died about 4 months after his conviction.
What the hell did I do? Kill them all. Of course.
Friedrich Flick.
Simple engineering goal, wouldn't you think? Change the machines around. Whatever you do, you can make other things, couldn't you? Field kits, mess kits, army contracts.
A German industrialist, Friedrich Flick was deeply involved in the Nazi war economy and was complicit in a number of war crimes through his industrial activity. Flick was a major financial contributor to the Nazi Party, plundered and seized a number of industries in occupied territories, and utilized tens of thousands of forced laborers, many of whom were subjected to inhumane conditions. He was ultimately tried at Nuremberg and was found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity, receiving 7 years in prison. He served only 3, and was released in 1950, whereupon he rebuilt his fortune, was awarded numerous honors, and resumed his enormous influence in German business. He ultimately died in 1972 as one of the wealthiest men in West Germany.
Money, still money. No, it is not.
William Calli.
The whole bit, everything that could aid the VC, every living thing, that was sort of like the order.
The United States committed an infamous war crime on March 16, 1968, when Army soldiers slaughtered hundreds of unarmed Vietnamese civilians in the village of Sun Mi. William Calli led 1st Platoon in C Company into the village and was the only soldier convicted, being found guilty of the premeditated murder of 22 unarmed villagers. He was sentenced to life in prison with hard labor, but Richard Nixon personally intervened and ordered his release from prison pending appeal. Further military appeals and staunch political pressure reduced his life sentence to house arrest, of which he served just 3 years. He led a quiet life after his release and died in 2024 at the age of 80.
After hearing this account, I couldn't quite accept it. Somehow, I just couldn't believe that not only had so many young American men participated in such an act of barbarism, but that their officers had ordered it.
Courtney Hackney.
Yes, I orchestrated the whole thing. But you can't lay a hand on me. It's called double jeopardy. You can't be tried for the same crime twice.
In May 2017, Courtney Hackney was in the home of Holly Barnett when she bludgeoned her to death with a baseball bat. Hackney was brought up on murder charges, but her first case ended in a mistrial after jurors failed to reach a unanimous verdict. A retrial was scheduled, but a key witness became unavailable, prompting prosecutors to dismiss the charges with the intention of refiling them later. However, because the charges were voluntarily dismissed and because Hackney had not legally consented to a retrial, double jeopardy protections barred prosecutors from refiling the charges. As a result, the case was permanently dismissed, and Hackney was allowed to walk free.
What if she's lying? We need time to reinvestigate.
I just want a mistrial so you can try my client again. That's double jeopardy, Your Honor.
Ms. Novak, sorry. I cannot grant a mistrial.
Karla Homolka.
She was released from prison in 2005. Since then, she's kept a low profile, going by the name Leanne Teal. And for the past 2 years, she has reportedly lived in this suburb south of Montreal with her husband and their 3 children.
In the 1990s, Karla Homolka was involved with her then-husband Paul Bernardo in the deaths of 3 young women. 2 of them, Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, were kidnapped and murdered. The third was Homolka's own sister Tammy, whom Homolka and Bernardo drugged and assaulted. She eventually died by choking on her own vomit.
What? Oh my God, she's not breathing.
Following their arrest, Homolka was offered a highly controversial plea deal in exchange for testifying against Bernardo. The Canadian public referred to this as the deal with the devil because the full extent of her involvement had not been known when the agreement was drawn up. In the end, Homolka served just 12 years and was allowed to walk free, where she then moved to Montreal and started a family.
When Homolka was released, she had served her full sentence. She was free to start a new life and choose where she wanted to live.
Like it or not, she has the right to live her life like any other person without being subject to threats and harassment.
Roy Bryant and JW Milm.
We're just gonna teach him a lesson.
Stay right here, shimmy.
Please move. Don't take him. Move. I'll whoop him if he does something wrong. We'll give you money.
Watch out.
On August 28, 1955, Roy Bryant and JW Milm committed one of the most infamous hate crimes in American history. That's when they abducted Emmett Till, a black teenager from his great-uncle's home, allegedly because Till had whistled at and flirted with Bryant's white wife. They savagely beat Till, shot him in the head, and dumped his body in the Tallahatchie River.
Bo's body was found in a river. Preacher just identified him to the sheriff. He recognized the ring Bo was wearing.
His mangled and unrecognizable body was found 3 days later. Bryant and Milm were arrested and charged with Till's murder. But despite overwhelming evidence, like openly admitting that they took Till from the house, the all-white and all-male jury acquitted both. They later admitted to murdering Till, but they were protected by double jeopardy and never faced legal repercussions.
I know what the verdict is.
After deliberating for about an hour, the jury has just come back with a verdict of not guilty. Thus, the defendants, Milm and Bryant, are free men.
Eay Sagawa.
Honestly, we were shocked to see him released so quickly.
It was the miscarriage of justice.
On June 11, 1981, Japanese student Eay Sagawa murdered his classmate René Hartevelt and cannibalized parts of her body. A French judge found Sagawa legally insane and unfit to stand trial, and he was committed to a mental health facility. But in 1984, Sagawa was deported to Japan, and because the charges against Sagawa were dropped in France, they were unable to send the sealed court documents to Japan.
When he arrived in Japan, he was a free person, because in Japan he had not committed any crime.
As such, Japanese prosecutors lacked the evidence needed to press charges. After just 15 months in Japanese custody, Sagawa was declared sane and released. He proceeded to live his life as a free man and even profited off his crime by writing books, appearing in films, and granting interviews.
No attempt has been made to monitor the cannibalistic urges Sagawa still appears to have. Free to roam amongst Tokyo's 12 million residents, it is a freedom that has been harshly criticized.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Pedro Lopez.
The fact that he only got 16 years, that's not justice. A fair sentence would have been life in prison.
One of history's most prolific serial killers could be out there right now, freely walking the streets after serving his time in prison. That man is Pedro Lopez, or the Monster of the Andes, who murdered at least 110 people between 1969 and 1980. And while he was convicted of 110 murders, Lopez personally confessed to killing over 300.
If Lopez was telling the truth, he'd rank among the most prolific serial killers in history.
Ecuador does not impose life sentences, and in 1980, the maximum was 16 years. So that's what Lopez got. Even worse, he was released 2 years early for good behavior. So 14 years for murdering 110 people. He was later placed in a Colombian mental health facility, but was released for good in 1998 after being found sane. He subsequently disappeared and has never been seen since.
He went back into the countryside he knew so well, to the killing ground where he had found so many victims. That was the last time anyone reported seeing Pedro Alonzo Lopez.
What do you make of these injustices? Let us know in the comments below.